Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu einer weiteren Folge Bitch on the Holy Night. Ich bin gerade am Überlegen, was beim letzten Mal eigentlich noch war. Ja, wir hatten, glaube ich, so einen kleinen Timeskip gehabt von 10 Tagen war das, glaube ich. Und sind jetzt mit, ich habe Seijiro, Sayoru, ich kann mir den Namen von der männlichen Hauptperson noch nicht merken. Auf jeden Fall verfolgen wir jetzt sein Schulleben etwas und wie er sich in die Klasse eingelebt hat, in Anführungszeichen. Aber naja. Okay, hier spricht gerade der Vice President. Also der arme Laufbursche von Aosaki. Okay, that I can't let go. You're really saying you were taking revenge for Aosaki? Sojuro. Also tatsächlich gar nicht so schlecht, so weit weg von dem, was ich gesagt habe. Continued chewing. The country boy's silent protest said all that needed to be said. The vice president suddenly looked like he had been struck by lightning. Don't tell me you're falling for Aosaki. You haven't you? Hey, I asked you a question, damn it. Tobimaru flew out of his chair and violently shook Sojiro by the shoulders. Sojiro opened his eyes. I forgot, you don't know what happened a year ago. 'Cause if you did, you wouldn't be treading down this path of destruction, my friend.
君の言葉には誤解が含まれてるけど、それは後にする。
Ich kann mir irgendwie vorstellen, dass der Vice President von ihr, sagen wir mal, einen Korb bekommen hat. Tobimaru regained his composure and sat down after a moment's thought. Okay, I'm not one to gossip, but for you I'm making an exception. Tobimaru assured himself that it was in Sojiro's best interest as a young man to know. It went down when Aosaki was a freshman. Everybody was new to high school, so nobody knew what anyone was like yet, her included. She was a total babe. I mean, just look at her. All the guys were crazy for her. And little did they know that soon after they would go crazy for an entirely different reason. The first couple of months the school descended into chaos. You gotta remember that early on in the year no one cared about class hierarchy. So tons of guys were fighting themselves over her. It was insane. And just getting anywhere near Aosaki was next to impossible.
なんでそんなよくわからない事態になるんだ?
Cause that's what happens when I'm with guys like the same girl do. It would have taken Aosaki 3 months just to have lunch with them all individually. So people decide to fight over who got to ask her out. They were all a bunch of losers if you ask me, but what happened next is the juicy part. Those who emerged from the conflict unscathed made their move. And though she might not seem like it, she's the type who likes to put a guy down lightly. You know, because of their sincerity or courage or whatever. At any rate, she rejected all comers as politely as she could. But there was one guy who couldn't take a hint. Selbst? He was a third year who just refused to give up. Maybe he was a little bit nuts. Okay, it's hard to see it any other way at this point. Incidentally, Tobimaru decided to gloss over the fact that the student was also the former student council president. But he didn't keep it only at school. Later he started following her home. That must have been the last straw, because Aosaki wigged out. She sent him packing in ways I'm not comfortable repeating out loud. The conclusion, the student didn't just request a transfer, he took a tail and left Misaki completely. Aosaki was sentenced to a month of house arrest. It can be known as the Bloody Town Hall incident. She could tell you about it than I can. But I wouldn't recommend asking her. Ask the school newspaper editor instead. She loves a bit of gossip.
Tobimaru, その具体的な表現を恋に避けてないか?
Der Blick dazu passt so perfekt. Hey, you would do the same if you were me. I may be the board chairman's son and all, but some things scare even me, and I wanna graduate in one piece. You want me to freak out every time I see a girl in a school uniform? Sojo tilted his head to the side in confusion. Tomoe had lost him with that comment. Well, whatever. What is about Aozaki that you like anyway? He tilted his head again, this time on the other side. Are you really that hot for her? Cause if your heart pounds in her presence, that could be caused by fear, you know? Tell me you aren't stupid enough to like her for no good reason. He tilted his head even further. What Tomoe was saying sounded off, but Sojo decided not to press the matter. All the more because he found many of his own emotions toward Aoko Aozaki to be incomprehensible.
そうだな、おかしい。俺はあまり彼女を知らないのにね。
That was because they had not truly spoken to each other since the day she showed him around. Every time Sojo tried to talk to her, she immediately got up and left. As fate would have it, they ended up working together that recent Sunday, but made only idle chatter on the way and back.
けど飛び丸、君は知らないだけなんだ。時々なんだが、誰かの視線を感じて振り返ってみると、いつ失敗するかを心配して見ている人がいる。飛び丸の言う通り、ただ廊下で俺を見かけて単に監視していただけなのかもしれない。本当は俺のことなんて気にせず素通りしたいのかもしれない。けどどんな種類であれ、彼女の心配は本物だ。それにここが一番大事だと思うんだけど、実際の話、青崎のそういうところのおかげで俺は助かっていたりするんだ。
His tone was measured and sincere. Tomoe sighed with a tinge of regret. If not for those words, he could have introduced Sojo to a more suitable girl, with whom he could have lived out the rest of his school days in peace. He never went to such lengths for his other friends. Generally speaking, if it was some benefit to him, he was unafraid of exploiting another. If there were no use, he didn't bother getting involved with them. That was how Tokumaru Tsukichi operated. Sojo happened to be the type of person who provided no benefit to Tokumaru, yet somehow sparked in him a desire to help. It was not that friendship was completely aligned to him. He just did not have many people he felt that close to. So, if Sojo had really fallen for Aoko, it was not his place as a friend to try to change his mind. Oh well, I guess it's true that love knows no reason.
そんなことはない。理由なら一つある。彼女を一目見たときに綺麗だなって思ったぞ。
Tomoe's shoulder slumped. After all that, you just like her for a look? Listen to yourself, Sojo.
綺麗なものに見とれるのはいいことじゃないのか？自分を綺麗に見せる努力をしているんだから、外見から内面を判断するのはそんなおかしな話じゃないと思う。
That sounded like it's sufficient to Tokumaru, but he had no counterpoint to offer. Alright, I get it. I will let it go. It's none of my business who you go after anyway. Now, Tokumaru was mistaken about one major point during this whole conversation, namely that Sojo was not head over heels in love with Aoko and hoped to go steady with her. He merely liked her as a person. Nobody could have foreseen the massive calamity that would be caused by this simple misunderstanding. Ach du Scheiße. I just got one piece of advice for you, Sojo. Just because Aozaki fights with someone doesn't mean she hates them. And just because she's nice to someone doesn't mean she likes them. I'm a prime example of that. He spoke with a pained sigh as if opening old wounds from the past.
そうか。詳しく。
Long story short, she used to be really full of herself, and I once tried to hit her. It happened last summer. I'd already been working with her in the student council for a year at that point, and saw her more like a fellow soldier in the trenches than as a girl. One day I lost my temper and I took a swing at her. I like to think I've got a mean right hook and I slugged her pretty good, so I thought I won that round. He had a distant look in his eyes as his words trailed off. The next day when I came to the student council, I thought she would be spoiling for a fight, but she was the same as always. And since then we've simply continued working together as president and vice president. Cedric sighed at the story. He then said with absolute confidence,
今の話を総合すると、君は単にのろけたいのか?
Clearly had missed the point entirely. Are you kidding me? How in the hell do you come to that conclusion after hearing a story like that? I'm telling you that from that day forward I could never see her again as a woman.
なんだ、違うのか?
A look of disappointment filtered across Sojuro's face. Tobimaru revised his opinion. Sojuro was something for a simpleton, but there was a quality to him that Tobimaru could not quite place. Just take it from me. Her standards are anything but normal. She won't like you for being nice to her, and she won't hate you for being mean to her. That's the kind of princess she is. Sojuro answered that he would keep it in mind as he looked to the clock. Oh, sorry. They had been talking for a while, and lunch was almost over.
もう君からの話はないか?
Huh? I didn't have anything to discuss in the first place. Why had Tobimaru even brought him here in the first place? Sojuro tilted his head in wonder but shook it off to deal with the more pressing matters at hand.
よし。じゃあもう少し付き合ってくれ。飛び丸に聞きたいことがあったんだ。
Tobimaru sat up straight, having never seen Sojuro's face look so serious before. Sojuro set aside his rice bowl and cleared his throat.
実は昨日こんなことがあって。
He spoke solemnly and as careful as possible. He recounted what had occurred the night before.
しずきくんいる?
It was 10 or to 12 on lunchtime, and lunchtime was quickly coming to an end. Her face popped into Class C as lively as ever, as if it were an everyday occurrence. Aoko Azaki announced her presence. While Aoko wasn't part of Class C, she didn't let it bother her as she casually entered the classroom. In contrast, the baby birds who had been so noisy chirping while eating lunch quietly quieted it and began to rearrange their seats.
どういう意味よそれ?
She bristled internally before looking around the room. She could not see the male student she had come here to find. He hardly stood out, so she thought he might be hidden in a corner somewhere, but that appeared not to be the case.
有里くん、出席番号12番のしずきくんは?
Aoko kept her tone professional.
俺? しずきならさっき飛び丸殿下が連れて行ったよ。
With his highness Tobimaru. The boy was shocked that she actually knew his name. One might think that the reason students referred to Tobimaru Tsukichi by a royal title was because he was the chairman's son, but it was because he actually acted like royalty. In fact, the vice president was said to have taken a liking to the title.
飛び丸が? あいつしずきくんと仲いいの?
She seemed surprised. The class seemed surprised at her surprise.
いいも悪いも築地くんが男子と仲良く話してるのって今まで見たことなかったよ私たち。あ、木の実くんはバカだから別だけど。
そうだよな。初めは殿下もあんまり話してなかったけど、3日もしたら楽しそうに口喧嘩してたもんな。ま、しずき相手に突っ張っても仕方ないじゃん。あいつ変だけどいいやつだし。
そうよね。いい人だもんね、宗十郎くん。
Having recomposed themselves, Cassie started chatting again. Aoko listened for a bit before turning around and leaving the class with her later. All the Sojuro talk finished as quickly as it had started. Lunchtime was coming to a close in the student council room. Sojiro, having told his story, was smiling in satisfaction. Tobimaru, still sitting across from him, was frowning.
さあ、感想を聞かせてくれ。
Sojiro told his yarn as best he could. Tobimaru fingered his brow as if he was angry or concerned. So Noge, are you trying to make fun of me? A word of advice, leave that to us smart people,
失礼な。器用な方だぞ、俺は。
His response only confirmed Tobimaru's suspicions. It had to be one of two possible conclusions. That what Sojiro had just told him was true, or that Sojiro was so tired that he must have been hallucinating at the time. Tobimaru sincerely hoped it was the latter. To be honest, Sojiro, you're growing on me. Anybody that never lies can't really be considered human. Misanthropy like me, I suppose you could say it's easy to like you. But if you're gonna stick it to your dumb story, I'm not sure what I'm going to do for lunch starting tomorrow.
学食で食べればいいんじゃないか?
Hearing his suggestion, my face darkened. Okay, I will spell it out for you. You were hallucinating. If you still insist you saw a ghost, I would be more than happy to introduce you to a good psychiatrist.
それが君の感想か。よし、ならいいんだ。
As bitter as Tobimaru's words might have sounded to most, Sojiro swallowed them whole.
そりゃ俺だって神隠しの類だと思ったよ。けど都会じゃもしかしてそれもありなのかもしれないだろう。確かめたかったのはそこなんだ。
Satisfied, Sojiro finished off his last rice bowl and neatly folded the cloth. Hey, hold on a second. You didn't actually think it was normal for people in the city to breathe fire or extend their arms like they're made of rubber, did you? Oh, geil. Geile Anspielung auf One Piece.
まあ普通じゃないけど特別でもないんじゃないかと思ったんだ。ここは山にないものが溢れている何でもありの場所だ。だからそれぐらいやってのける人だってもしかしているのかなと。
That his face was as serious as it made Tobimaru realize just how big a culture shock Sojiro must have been experiencing. Living up in the mountains with no electricity. In a place where the night sky was it always had been, where humans were just one more organism in nature's gardens. It makes sense that those conditions would create a boy like him. The idea of children growing up so pure was an appealing one. But maybe it was nature to forego tradition when your population was so small. Or perhaps it was so simple a word that excessive knowledge was deemed irrelevant. It was precisely because city life offered him so much that was impossible up till now that he had come to the conclusion that anything was possible here. Relax, the city might have a share of Dreadicuz, but none of them are magicians in disguise.
そうだといいんだけど。
But Sojiro seemed unsure. And on Tobimaru's part, there were things to Sojiro's story that he found hard to swallow. Whether true or not, the incident Sojiro described was disturbing. For the time being, let's assume what you say actually happened. That would ultimately mean that one of the school students killed someone in the park last night and that neither of the parties involved were normal. As a newcomer to town, Sojiro assumed that everyone his age was a student at the school. For better or worse, he was right. One of them was equipped with a flamethrower, while the other had a naginata, or at least a bladed weapon resembling one that was a good few feet in length. Sojiro bobbed his head up and down as he listened to the disbelief in Tobimaru's voice. Hearing it repeated by someone else, he could see how someone might think he was taking them for a ride.
正気を疑うな。尋常じゃないぞその話。
Give it to me straight, Sojiro. You're pulling my leg, aren't you?
いや、全く。けどまあ、都会にはそんな人間はいないんだろ。なら飛び丸の言う通り、夢でも見てたんだ。ここのところアルバイトと試験が重なって辛くて。
Winter break was just around the corner, and the end of the term exams were but a week away. Both were proving formidable opponents for Sojiro.
俺は基本ができてないから、人の倍程度の勉強じゃ追いつけない。ほら、 勉強ばかりしているとノイローゼをするんだろう。
I wouldn't say you're losing it, but you're definitely pushing yourself too hard. Maybe cut back on work a bit until the exams are over.
減らしてはいるんだけどね。年末ってアルバイトを休む人も多くて、その代行も頼まれがちだし。
He shrugged helplessly. It was obvious from his words that he had been busy. Even if he was not going crazy, lack of sleep could have caused him to daydream, even if this all did go down in the middle of the night. Sounds tough, Sojiro.
ああ、実はかなり参ってる。
Sojiro nodded with a pained look on his face. What was strange, however, was that he did not look at the least bit tired. I'm impressed you never complain about it. You always look like nothing bothers you at all.
ん？そりゃ、心労はどこも痛まないからね。
As he answered, Sojiro looked up at the clock on the wall. Lunchtime was almost over.
時間だ。
Really? It's that late already? You can go on ahead as they have things to do. Sojiro was a Tomorrow made a gesture that seemed to lament the life of a student council member. His eyes looked as if they were looking at a piece of art and not understanding its value.
授業をサボれる身分っていうのは羨ましいな。そういうの、飛び丸が嫌いな手抜きじゃないのか？
How many times do I have to tell you? It's not skipping when I've got special permission. The vice president angrily defended himself as he stood up. The transfer student merely gazed at him unfazed. Hey, you're not honestly implying you still don't understand after all that, are you? Oh well, just sit down and listen, Sonoji. I was granted talent and luck beyond that of most people, but I always put the work in, but once I leave here I'm on my own. Now do you get it? I'm sick of explaining this to people. My family status will only keep me afloat for one more year. What about that could you possibly envy? Most people can live with privilege of their entire lives, but the best I get is 3 measly years. So I have to take advantage of what I have while I have it. Just the thought of having to count beans like the rest of the idiots out there gets me livid. The added word is going to kill me. Their envy alone will be enough to destroy my fragile heart. Well, he must have been joking. Sergio took his tone to be completely sincere. Da haut wieder mal mein... So. From his frame of reference, there was nothing he could do but take Tobimaru for his word. When...
あら、そんな経理なんて留年すればいくらでも引き延ばせるのに。なんなら協力してあげましょうか?
The door to the student council room flew open, washing away Sergio's half-hearted response to his friend. This frosty statement destroyed the warm atmosphere of the room, and it also marked the abrupt end to Tobimaru Tsuzuki's reign there. No, I just meant that our dreams are something we take hold of ourselves.
なら今みたいな恥ずかしいこと力説しないでね。廊下にまで聞こえてたわよ、副会長さん。
Not missing a beat, Aoko Aozaki stepped inside the room. Her dark hair was slightly disheveled, as if she had been running. Her gaze missed the sitting Sojo entirely and was focused completely on the ranting vice president.
頑張れ、飛び丸。
Sojo quietly got up to head back to his classroom. That's cold, man. Tobimaru grumbled in front of Aoko.
だって時間がない。
You're just proving my point, you are. He cut himself off. Aoko briefly shifted her gaze to Sojo.
時間がないのは私も同じよ。あなたにはいつも振り回される。
Not a complaint, it was her honest opinion. Wait, you're here for Sojiko?
安心なさい。あなたにもあるから。
Her eyes shimmered with murderous glee. It was slightly different from the more sullen gaze to which Tobimaru had grown accustomed. For whatever reason, Ako's mood seemed worse than usual.
しずきくん、あなた、走るのと泳ぐの、どっちが好き?
Ako asked abruptly. Sergio frowned a little before saying he was fine with
ダメ
either
よ
one.
一つにして。
泳ぐ方かな。
あなたがまだどこの部にも所属してないから。
a succinct reply. One that left no room for surgery to object.
うちの校則読んだわよね。生徒はただ一人の例外もなく部活動に参加しなくてはならない。正直どうかと思う校則だけど決まりは決まりだから。
そんな無茶な。悪いけどそこまでの暇はないんだ。
でしょうね。
An equally tearless response. She was typically to the point, but Tomari got the impression that she was expressly trying to keep her interaction with Sojuro short. They stared at each other in silence. Tomari stood breathlessly silent on the sidelines until Sojuro broke the impasse.
青崎は分かってると思ってた。あ、いや違う。うん。だから、そこが強いんだろうね。
Sojuro stood up from his seat. He walked past Aoko and into the hallway.
それ、明日からでいいんだろ？
しずきくんがいいならね。
He did his best to fasten a smile before leaving the student council room. While watching the events play out, Tomari found himself deeply impressed with Sojuro. He could tell from Aoko's behavior that she was trying to get a rise out of Sojuro. Sojuro, on the other hand, didn't react. Heedless of what Aoko was doing, he simply went on his way. To Tomari, it was hard to realize that Sojuro had not taken offense. From his point of view, Sojuro's poker face had been the performance of a lifetime. The kid has some balls, huh, President? He looked at Aoko curiously. Aoko stood completely still, staring at the wall. Hey, Aozaki? Aoko showed no response. Yo, President Earth to Aozaki, come in, Lady Aoko. I'm talking to you, Aoko Aozaki. A fairy echoed across the student council room. It was a beautiful sound that could be heard into the library and made Tomari rant from earlier play in comparison. Look who is talking with the megaphone. Perhaps the shouting was still ringing in his ears, or he was just the type to answer a shout with a shout, but he shot back reflexively. No wonder you can't get a boyfriend. Do I have your attention now?
別にあなたの声は聞こえてた。煩わしかったから無視してただけよ。黙らせるの面倒だし。
You've gotten some nerve. Am I a mosquito to you?
コミュニケーションが成立しない点で言えば、あっちのがまだ上品よね。
And what exactly is that supposed to mean?
お互い何を言ってるかわからない。意味のない会話なら、仰せみたいなものでしょ。
Based on that statement, Aoko must have been under the assumption that dating was the act of two lovers whispering nonsense to each other. The real question is what the hell qualifies as company to you, but whatever. You're awfully harsh today, Aozaki.
ちょっとね。今愛嬌振りまける状況じゃないのよ。
Funny you mentioned that. I haven't seen you try to be civil at all in the last 2 years.
飛び丸のいない時に振りまいてたの。
So that's how it is. You're still upset with me for what happened, aren't you? There was only one thing Tomari could be talking about. The incident that occurred in the student council room this past summer.
え？ずいぶんと昔の話じゃないそれ。そんなどうでもいいことに容量を使っちゃもったいないわよ。ただでさえ脳の覚醒部分が少ないのに。
There this, as the conversation wore on, Aoko's mother's hour began to fade and her sharp gaze gave way to a calmer demeanor rarely seen from her. It was quite possible that nobody besides Tomari had ever seen the side of her at school before. Thanks for the concern, Psyche. And for the record, it's not like I want to relieve it either. It's just when Sonoge was being an idiot earlier, it kinda reminded me of how it went down. Come to think of it, this is the room it happened in. Despite his ranting, his face betrayed a touch of nostalgia. Aoko on the other hand was scowling.
ちょっと待って。あの話、彼にしたの？
Sure did. At least how you mocked my candidates, Daisy, for playing and told me my face had sidekick written all over it. And the part where I took the bait and tried my damn needles to punch you for it. Aoko let out a sigh as if relieved that Tomari had not told you the rest of the story. Even she wasn't sure why.
あれは確かにびっくりするぐらいいい月だった。思わず体が反応しちゃったものね。
Oh, sie hat ihn zusammengeschlagen.
ところで、私そんなこと言ったっけ？
You sure did, and not only that. After I was taken to the infirmary, you had the boys to tell me you did me a favor by forcing me to be your number 2. Since that day, Tomorrow had served as the vice president to the person who had usurped the rule for men. It's fine though, the president's chair doesn't suit me anyway. I feel much more at home as the vice president. Your job would have probably turned me into my dad.
プライド高い分、できることは全部やるからね、会長職に先進するあまり、気がついたら優等生になってたあんたも見たかったけど。
Don't even go there, even thinking about it gives me the creeps. Having one wife in sheep's clothing around here is bad enough. The marriage shouldn't occur away like an annoying pest. It was a typical example of the crude verbal abuse they exchanged on a daily basis, with a wittiness that only 2 long-time foes could manage.
で、なんでそんな話したのよ。
Tell who what?
半年前のここの事件を。
Oh, that I was just trying to put a stop to the nonsense he was spewing, and he stopped himself before he said any more. He knew better than to let slip the fact that he had a thing for Aoko. Everyone knew guys didn't sell each other out like that, even if it all was in truth a misunderstanding. So, aber ich würde dann sagen, an dem Punkt beende ich jetzt mal diese Folge. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und bis zum nächsten Mal. Ciao.